I want to give a huge thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. Therapy isn't something to run away from, it's a vessel to run towards. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service and it's 100% online, so break out your comfies. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time. Anytime. And schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. No more fumbling to get a session on the calendar. You schedule based on when the time is right for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. Therapy changed my life for the better. Pun intended. And with BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Rocky. That's betterhelp.com/Rocky. Share some things I've learned along the way so far. We can all be a little more patient in the outside world, okay? The other morning, I got woken up by a car horn blaring, and the guy in front of the honker just goes very loudly, "It's a red light, man." But he said it so nonchalantly, but also kind of like he was in disbelief. This guy is just honking at the air, exuding I'm a dick energy. What if something terrible happened to the honker and he's just lashing out? Why can't the guy in front of him just say to himself, that honk doesn't affect me? I know the light's red and I can't move until the car in front of me moves anyway. So why don't I just put on Cowboy Carter from the beginning and not allow the honker into my energy field? Then they all drove off, leaving me wide the fuck awake, critically thinking about morals, and realizing I still had 2 hours of sleep I could be getting. And you don't see me being impatient. Screen limits are low-key the shit. It's kind of crazy that we just stare at this little box like, entertain me, square. But with screen limits, you can gain more of your life back. Even if you hit ignore every time except one, that's one less time you open the app. Every week I lower my screen time amount because I'm wild addicted to Instagram. And this has been helpful for me. If you feel inclined inside to do something artistic, I would encourage you to do it. There's a reason it's called artistic expression. It helps people express something inside. And don't worry so much about people judging you. People are going to judge you, no matter what. So you might as well be expressed. And a lot of the time they won't have the opportunity to judge you because you don't have to put your work out there. You don't have to show anyone, but you do owe it to your life to artistically express yourself if you feel so inclined. Try it. Don't be afraid to ask questions to people you admire. I'm not saying be a little freak about it, you know what I mean? I don't have to say that. But if you have the opportunity to ask someone you admire something, then ask them. If you stay ready, you don't ever have to get ready. Take that one however you want. A lot of the time in life, new characters will just poof, enter. You don't even have to look. A lot of the time, they'll just enter when you're doing you. I mean, you have to leave the house, of course. Go out, live your life. But if you're out living your life, watch the new characters roll in and out. It'll be like an episode of The Circle, and a lot of them will be great. I mean what I'm about to say with all the seriousness in the world. Pharrell was right. We are all up all night to get lucky. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Like 99% chance it isn't. So start listening to your gut. Unless it's money or an agreed upon favor, people don't owe you anything. It's not meant to sound harsh, it's just real. If you do something kind for someone, that was you being dope. You aren't dope if it's kindness with conditions. Does that make sense? Food and drink water while you're drinking. This sounds like a no-brainer, especially coming from me, leader of the Party God Squad, but sometimes even the best of us slip up. This is a fun one. Figure out what kind of music you like. You don't have to keep listening to the same playlist from 20 years ago, even though it hits all the good spots. New music has the opportunity to titillate you in a way that you didn't even expect. Sure, you can let Spotify give you some suggestions, but if you like a song from an artist you've never heard, listen to their whole album. It just seems like musically we could all be covering more ground if we branched out from the old familiars. We'd be giving each other a lot more recommendations. Do you have a memory, particularly a sad or melancholy memory associated with a certain place? The best thing I've learned is you can repurpose it. Go to said place with someone else. If they can be super hot, that helps. We give places too much power. These are your memories, so repurpose them as needed, especially if they're making you sad. Yes, the best way to get over someone is by getting under someone else. That's true, but the same rule applies to places that make you sad because of associated memories. Oh man, and this is one of my favorite ones. You cannot regulate people at concerts. If people are standing in front of you at a concert, next time buy the seats in front of you, or this time shut the fuck up. Stand up with them or shut up for all of us. You can't control people standing up at a concert. Stop. Stop. You look dumb and sound dumb and are dumb. Don't be dumb. This next one I learned on a YouTube short and I thought it was kind of fun. The definition of anger is an emotional punishment you give yourself for somebody else's behavior. Imagine that. And before I get to the last one, I also want to just say, hug your people a little longer than you have to. Send random I love you texts whenever you feel like it, and say yes to fun. Fun is really good for you. It's really, really good for you. And lastly, speaking of fun, you are a concert star. Some of the best concerts of all time have been performed for an audience of none. Zip, zilch, zero. This is your sign that you can perform a concert alone if you've never tried and always wanted to in your home. You aren't weird. Okay, I love you.
Time for
the
Rocket
Welcome to the Rocky Rundown, where you get to learn a little bit about my week. Party God Squad, hello. Did you have a good week? Did you get laid? Did you get paid? If both of those things happened to you, give yourself a pat on the back right now. You're winning. My week was a literal dream from top to bottom. Well, one day I did wake up very hungover. No headache. My body was just cashing the check from the night before. Well, it was trying to cash the check, but the check was bouncing. You know what I'm trying to say? My body was lagging. But all in good fun. And as my forefather partiers before me would say,
it's a small price to pay to the party gods.
Big shout out this week to my mom for bringing me into the world. There's no wild nights without the queen. And I told my mom all I wanted for my birthday was a potato cake. And she did, in fact, make me a bona fide, delicious potato cake that I got to enjoy with my family. It was good vibes. And for more good vibes, do we have a juicy, risky, scary, provocative, sexy, and scandalous wild night retelling for you this week. Hold on to your sweet asses. It was sent in by none other than Veronica Danger. And before you say anything, yes, that is her real name. I saw the birth certificate. Don't believe me? Then hook me up to a goddamn lie detector, you animal. And don't waste your time. Lie detector tests are expensive. And where are the offices? You would think, a lie detector office is probably in a strip mall, but I've never seen one in a strip mall. So stop wasting all of our time. Let me get to the story. And before we get to the story, I do want to say no highest thoughts this week, but they will be back with a vengeance next week. And stay tuned to figure out how you can submit your own Wild Night story. Trigger warning with this one, it will get sexually explicit. There's no sexual abuse, but it's sexual abuse adjacent language. So if that's not your cup of tea, you can bow out if that's your journey. I'll still love ya. Now let's set the scene, shall we? This whole tale started with a gal's trip to Greece. Veronica just had a massive breakup with a toxic, controlling asshole. Cheers to Veronica for getting out of that. And this was her moment to make up for it. Both her lost time and lost freedom. She was ready to make all those bad choices. On the trip, there were 5 girls in total. Veronica, her sister and cousin, and 2 of their friends. Sounds ideal, right? 5 best girlfriends on their way to Greece. Unfortunately, this was not the case for the way back. At the very start of the trip, day 1, the girls realized how wild it actually was going to be. They get to their first hotel where Veronica, and let's just call this first friend character Schmo. They get to the hotel where Schmo and Veronica dance topless on their balcony. Kudos to you. I can barely run in an old sports bra without feeling like an adult is yanking down on my tits asking for a favor. But I have never tried titty bopping on a balcony in Greece, and something tells me it hits different. Veronica, being a girl's girl, thinks this moment between her and Schmo is a sign of unity. Obviously, they're bonding, but she was wrong. This was actually the beginning of a jealousy competition that, for the record, was one-sided. Veronica had no idea Schmo's feelings were bubbling in that direction. And how could she even pay attention to that? This freshly single woman was very popular in Greece. She would like to mention, though, that any woman with a pulse could clean up there. The men were primed for picking, and she was a picker, baby. Damn, makes me want to pick up and go to Greece right now, you know? Of the 5 gals, Veronica was the oldest, wisest, horniest, and most confident, so she cleaned up like a janitor after a parade. Sweep, motherfucking sweep. Men were throwing themselves at her, and she was catching each and every one and then throwing them right back in the proverbial pool. The girls go out to eat their first night where all these hot young Greek waiters were feeding them free food, giving them tons of free shots, including their very own homemade uvo. Veronica ends up with one of them. In fact, by the end of the night, she was fighting him off her. Uh-oh, yikes. Our old pal Boobies bouncing on the balcony, Schmo, made a comment to Veronica after watching this interaction. I bet you've never felt alone a day in your life. Yikes, way harsh, Ty. You just watched your friend get harassed and you're jealous of that? That is a bona fide red flag. Now, here is the skinny on how the clubs in Greece work. They're pure mayhem. It's a sea of attractive people, and the last time Veronica checked, consent did not exist there. You're dancing, and then all of a sudden you would get turned around by a man, then kissed or groped. There's no warning. There's no time to see who you're kissing. You would come up for air, assess the situation, and then either keep kissing him or fight him off and on to the next. And Veronica was absolutely loving the makeout free-for-all. You gotta remember, with a name like Veronica Danger, she's hot to trot. You already know that. And she's newly single. Fresh out of a long toxic relationship, she was ready to go balls to the Grecian walls. Now we find ourselves on night 3 of this 6-night adventure. The girls found themselves at this club that was built into the side of a cliff on the water. Completely outdoors. Veronica, as we've heard and can hope and assume, has been making questionable decisions for days. She's using the upper Vyvanse to stay up all night and sleep all day. Things are getting progressively more outrageous, and our girl has made the best decision. A decision I fully and wholeheartedly support in this moment. She decided yes was going to be her answer to whatever insane thing came her way. On her way to the bathroom of this outdoor club, an attractive man stops her, and he offers her some coke. I'll need a little sample before I purchase it, of course. Her zany, hot coke dealer was more than happy to give her a little sample, and then she had a sample of it, and she was flying, baby. Now, this is what this man said to her after giving her the sample, verbatim. He was willing to trade the bag of coke for an innocent suckle of her perky tits. Innocent suckle, huh? Whatever translation app he was using must have been like, yo, this is the verbiage, my guy. Trust me, it works all the time. Just say innocent suckle. All Veronica was thinking is, damn, what a bargain. They go into a stall, and that man sucked like a Hoover vacuum, and she loved it. If I may quote her, Greeks really know how to use their mouths. I haven't experienced it myself, but I'm a huge fan of doing my own research. It's all about the data, baby. Veronica gets the bag and continues her quest for debauchery. Word on the street is no respectable partier goes out in Greece before midnight. Good info for the Party God Squad to make note of, huh? Huh? And it's at this point in the night, around 4 a.m., the girls are scattered around the club, but everyone is in each other's sights. They're having a blast. All is well. All of a sudden, Veronica is turned fully around and kissed. She comes up for air to see who she's kissing, and she sees her friend. And a new character introduction for the story, Felicia. Felicia was one of the girls on the trip. Felicia is crucial because Felicia is holding back Schmo, who is quite literally green with envy. And Felicia was holding Schmo back from punching Veronica in the face. But Schmo broke free and she clocked her. Let's refresh, shall we? Veronica arrives well after midnight, gets a free bump of coke, then gets her nipples suckled, that's the word he used, when asking for consent. Let us not forget that. Then gets a baggie of coke, hits the dance floor, gets tossed and tongue-tangled by a stranger and punched in the face by a woman who was supposed to be her friend. So naturally, Veronica is like, what the fuck? It isn't till Schmo starts yelling in her face, how dare you steal my man, that Veronica even has the slightest clue what's going on. Obviously, this is confusing. How could she possibly think any of these men were hers? This is Greece, honey. These men didn't belong to anybody. They didn't care about any of the women in here. They were just trying to get as much strange as possible, obviously. Veronica described the club as an all-you-can-eat buffet. You see, Schmo was trying to hang with one steak. Okay, I get the buffet analogy. It's an excellent point. Steak is great. But I love a side of potatoes, maybe some Brussels. I mean, just think, if you're at a buffet, why just have the steak, silly? Anywho, Schmo storms off, straight to the bathroom, and Veronica runs after her, trying to defuse the situation, maybe laugh it off, but no. There was no laughing. Schmo lost it in the bathroom. She said some of the most hurtful things ever about Veronica's looks, about her personality, about everything in between. This girl was aiming low, and it was working. Veronica had an unshakable confidence that, admittedly, after the breakup, was a front, and Schmo broke it right down. Those cruel words really got to her. She ran out of the bathroom upset, of course, and made an incredibly expensive phone call back home to her partner in debaucherous crime, Brolin. She calls Brolin, she's crying her eyes out and recapping everything for him. Every harsh word that was said and her confusion on why Schmo was so upset. She didn't understand what she had done to hurt her this badly. Looking back, now she knows. All of it was her own insecurities, her lack of confidence, her need for Prozac, which I looked up. And Prozac works by increasing the levels of serotonin in the brain. And that's a great thing because every time I've tried to increase my serotonin with a pill, it just decreases. And I need a drug testing kit to make sure it's good. You feel me? But back to the moment we're examining. Veronica didn't realize these things then. But now as time has passed, she does realize it. That's the point. When she hopped off the phone, she went to go find the girls, and they were nowhere to be found. They weren't on the dance floor, they weren't in the smoking section, not in the bathroom. She went to one of the guys that they had met along the way, maybe to see if he had any intel. And he, in fact, had intel. He said all 4 of the girls got out of there in a cab to head home. Later, Veronica found out the reason they ditched her is because Schmo told them all that Veronica had already left. Said she stormed out of the club and straight left. Classic Schmo. Now Veronica is abandoned on the side of a cliff at 6 a.m. in Greece. And for her, that was the absolute last straw. I haven't mentioned this yet, but Veronica is Sicilian, and there was no way in hell she was going to let an attack of this caliber go without revenge. And unlike the saying, she believes revenge is best served piping hot. Oh my God, you guys, did we just enter an action novel? What a strong way to word that. Now she's on a mission. She is on a mission to find the man that Schmo claimed was hers. He was very tall and very good looking, not too hard to find, luckily. She gave this dude one look and he knew it was make-out time, and they made out hard. And that's all well and good. There's worse things you can be doing at 6 a.m. on vacation. Then both Veronica and the night, well, they took a turn. All of a sudden, Mr. Good-Looking turns her around and passes her to another guy. This man starts kissing and groping her even harder than the first guy. She was drunk, she was on coke, and she almost didn't even realize she had been passed around until she pulled away. She looked back and forth between them, and they got her sandwiched in real tight. The three of them all start dancing, kissing, groping. The guy in the back grabs her hand, and boom, homie is rock hard. Huge also, apparently, but Greeks use the metric system, so who knows. The guy in front is for sure keeping her mouth busy. She's so preoccupied with all the rubbing and the jerking and the slurping that she doesn't even realize they're moving towards the edge of the club. The guy behind her gets in front, then both of them grab her hands and tell her, "Come with us." If you're a woman listening right now, I know what you're thinking because I'm thinking it. And she's even thinking it. Every single thing she's ever been taught as a woman, every instinct, in this moment she ignored them. She ignored the voice that said, do not follow them, do not leave with them. But something was happening. Everything dirty, kinky inside of her. The side of her that loves fear mixed with the side of her that has to execute this desire to get revenge on this chick tonight. All those factors, she went with them. And then they bring her to this path that leads upwards. And once she got up there, she looked over and it was a huge cliff with the most beautiful view of the sunrise over the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, now she's thinking they've done this before. Oh, boys. And before she can even take a second to enjoy what's happening, they push her to her knees. And not one, but two giant dongs are boom in her face. She, in fact, started blowing both of them. More power to you, girl, because the second a second dong enters the chat that is my mouth, those men are getting a speech. Excuse me, fellas, I actually will throw up on one of you if you hit the little dangly thing in the back of my throat. So, number 2, I'm gonna need you on hand stuff for a while. Yeah, retreat. Veronica could barely breathe. Things were getting so wet and wild down there. And as if the story couldn't take more turns, put your blinkers on because one of the dudes turns her over and now he's in the pink. The other is in the mouth. And at first she was into it. Bit of a spit roast situation we have on our hands and mouths, frankly. She didn't know where she ended and where they began, which in a sexual situation is an amazing thing. But now they keep spinning her and grabbing her and trading sides and holes. And it's like two little boys with a toy, except these guys were not little. Neither of them, in any way. They're starting to rip her clothes, the little clothes that she was wearing. And at one point she dropped her head back and it's hanging off of a rock and she's seeing the sunrise upside down and then something clicked. The high's wearing off and her mind is starting to get control of her body again. And she realizes things are getting very intense. There's only been one untapped hole, and it was in that moment that she realized that wouldn't be the case for long. So she pushed them both off of her, but that wasn't enough because they start gripping her harder and they're pushing her down. And she, again, thought it was very hot and so intense, but this can go from hot to rapey in the blink of an eye. Boys are so silly like that. It's a very fine line. So she attempts to get them off her again. This time there was more gusto and years of self-defense training under her belt. And she got him off. And she grabbed her scattered clothes and she ran. And she ran until she got to the club's edge. And she put herself together outside. And she called the cab and she got herself back to the hotel. And she did, in fact, rub one out to the thought of the cliffside duo. She also fell asleep to the thought of her roommate Schmo laying across from her. Schmo had also fucked her, but in a very different way, and she felt calm. The revenge mission was complete. To this day, she never even told Schmo what she did. That win was hers. The inner her the one that had been hurt with all the low blows and the insults. It was also a win for the outside her, who had been craving adventure and freedom ever since her very toxic relationship. The next 3 days the gals spent on a cruise ship together, but apart, Veronica moved on to her next adventure, and that adventure was the party coordinator of the ship, the Patrick Swayze from Dirty Dancing character type. They danced at the ship's club until sun rose. They had sex in the catwalks of the ship, the employee-only back rooms, and even once in the kitchen. The icing on the cake she wasn't even going to frost was that Patrick Swayze ran up to her while she was departing from the boat, right in front of Schmo, and says, "One of the best I've ever had." "Good job, Swayze." In her head, she just said, "I win, bitch." A small smirk on her face, a nasty-ass grimace on Schmo's. So many lessons learned on this trip to Greece, and so much fun was had. When she got back, she had to do a wellness check at the gyno. Gotta make sure the fun wasn't stowed away in her carry-on, you know what I'm saying? She and Schmo never spoke until years later because one of the lessons she learned is it's easier to let go of grudges than to keep them clouding your soul. Amen, sister. But also, revenge threesomes make it easier too. I guess we all learned a little something. If you would like to submit your own Wild Night story, you can DM me or email me at wildnightswithrocky@gmail.com. If you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can follow me at Wild Nights with Rocky on TikTok and Instagram, at Wild Nights Pod on Twitter. You can also subscribe to the show on YouTube. If you would like to support the show with your wallet, you can join my Patreon for $2 or $5 a month. A big thank you to everyone who's written or who will write a review when this episode is over on Apple Podcasts. It really does make a difference. And until next time, stay wild.